gave me what I wanted and so much more, and it delivered on every single level imaginable. This is probably my favorite incarnation or my favorite portrayal of Spider-Man on screen. A lot to like in this movie. I feel like the MJ character, I feel she was used a lot more in this movie, but then in Homecoming she was just kind of there as a backseat character, but in this one she's like forefront right next to Peter Parker. Her screen time in this movie, and she certainly has her time to shine. Eddie's probably the character that is left in the background in this movie. He takes a backseat for this ride, but then in Homecoming he was the character that was Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man's assistant in that one. And in this movie, he's certainly there. He certainly has a reasonable amount of screen time, but I feel like MJ, this is really her time to shine. But in Homecoming, it was Ned's character time to shine. But in this one, it's really a story between Peter Parker and MJ's character, because Peter Parker, he's trying to impress MJ and he's trying to like ask her out on a date, and that's basically that's the love romance of the movie. Because in Homecoming, it was kind of left in the background, but in this one it actually plays a big part as a subplot that actually makes for a lot of great scenes in the movie. The point I want to mention is the after credit scenes. I feel like going into this movie knowing what the after credit scenes were and what was going to happen, it helped me like the movie a lot more. It made the movie a lot more enjoyable, just seeing how these certain characters are portrayed on screen, just seeing, I guess, every move they do, and really just paying attention. I feel like it made the experience a lot more enjoyable, just knowing what happens in the after credit scenes. Mysterio here is fantastic. Jake Gyllenhaal plays his character to perfection. I will say for the first act, it is a little weird seeing Mysterio as a good guy when in the comics he's portrayed as a bad guy, but don't worry, his bad side certainly does kick in the second and third act. But I just found it very weird and strange just seeing Mysterio play a good guy for the first act, but then when you actually find out what the twist is, I won't spoil the twist here just in case you haven't seen it, but this is a twist that happens that makes everything in the first act makes sense. First act, there is some great chemistry between Mysterio and Spider-Man, and then that leads to some great conversations between those characters, and their chemistry in this is really good. They have some great chemistry in the first act, and even leading into the second act, the chemistry is quite good, because it's a film I want to spoil. There is just so much goodness that I want to talk about in this movie, but I'm going to try and keep this as non-spoilery as possible. But in the trailer, you see that Spider-Man teams up with Mysterio, and they're teaming up to take down these enemies called Eternals, and there are a lot of Easter eggs and references and throwbacks to the Spider-Man comics and to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. If you follow the comics, there are a couple of Easter eggs and references in here that you will spot that might just tickle your inner Spider-Man fan. Say if you have read the Deadpool vs. Marvel universe and you've seen the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, there are a couple of Easter eggs and references in here that will make you proud as a Spider-Man fan. That's all I'll say. Just go see the movie. Easter eggs made me happy as a long-time Spider-Man fan. Just, I think, loving the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, loving what they're doing with Spider-Man now in the comics and in the on-screen portrayal. It made me happy as a Spider-Man fan. One Easter egg in particular, which I was just nerding out, which I loved. Not sure if this is a spoiler, but I will say the first act of this movie, it felt like a proper Endgame sequel, and then the second and third act felt more of a Homecoming sequel. And plus that is not really a spoiler, because if you've seen Endgame, this is obviously the end of Phase 3, and this is obviously the proper sequel to really both these movies, and they have to tie them in one way, and that's why I say the first act feels more of the Endgame sequel, and then the second and third act feel more of a Homecoming sequel. The first act, it focuses more on the loss of the Avengers and Iron Man, and then the second act is kind of getting more into our Homecoming sequel. I can't really get into the spoilers here because I want you guys to have a chance to see it, but that's all I'll say. Is the first act, it's basically focusing more on how Peter is feeling and how he's dealing with Iron Man's loss, because if in Infinity War and Endgame, those two end even in Homecoming, they had a great chemistry. They had a great relationship. This one's kind of showing how is he feeling now, how is he dealing with that. And I thought the way they did that in the first act was in his second act, it goes more into the Homecoming sequel that we want, from where, because if you remember in Homecoming, Vulture was the villain portrayed by Michael Keaton very well, might I add. I didn't review Homecoming back in the day, but I really liked it, and I think this is probably a more satisfying sequel to Homecoming. I feel like this is a great time, and this is a great end to Phase 3 of Marvel. And I got to mention was Tom Holland. He knocks it out of the park here as Spider-Man. He was great in Infinity War, Endgame, Homecoming, and he is absolutely phenomenal here. He's like the Spider-Man, all these areas that are built up of what Spider-Man is. Spider-Man has always just been a high schooler that has these powers, and I thought Tom Holland, he really knocks it out of the park in every level as Spider-Man, and yeah, he does not disappoint in this. This is a great performance and a great portrayal of Spider-Man from Tom Holland. I just want to sit here and talk spoilers while the movie's still fresh in my head. I want to talk about it so much. I want to talk about the after credit scenes and just I want to talk about so much, and I'm finding it so difficult just to sit here and review this movie without talking spoilers, because there's seriously so much in this movie. I suppose what I should talk about next is the marketing. The marketing for a while, it was on a down low, and there was not much talk on this movie. There was not much, many people on social media like saying, before Endgame came out, that movie was blowing up on social media before that movie even came out. And with Far From Home, I feel like the marketing has took a backseat rest on it, and they have not been releasing many trailers, or it just has not been mentioned online, because I feel like for a while I did not hear anything Far From Home related. So set up Mysterio as a good guy, and Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, was going to team up with Mysterio to defeat the Elementals, and Nick Fury was going to be mixed into that as well. Like, I always knew Mysterio was going to turn bad, because in the comics he's always been a bad guy to Spider-Man, so I was obviously knew he was going to turn bad, but I was curious to know how they would have done that. And I will say the twist that does happen, I haven't talked much about the twist, I've mentioned it every now and then, but the twist, I will say, it's a very satisfying twist. It's very unexpected when it happens, because like I said, I only really went into this movie knowing what the after credit scenes were. I was ready to be amazed and mind blown with anything else that was in offer for that. And the twist, I will say, it's satisfying at what they do. And that's all I'll really say. Conclusion, Spider-Man Far From Home was a great sequel. It was a satisfying sequel. It was a great tie to Endgame and Homecoming. Mysterio was used extremely well here and portrayed very well by Jake Gyllenhaal, and has a lot of Easter eggs and throwbacks and references to comics and movies that hopefully Spider-Man fans will pick up on and will have a lot of fun with. And I had a lot of fun with this movie. So anyways, guys, let me know down in the comments, what did you all think of Spider-Man Far From Home? Did you like it? Do you think it's better than Homecoming? Do you think it's better than Endgame? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section down below. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your night, and I'll see you in the next video.